Hey everybody, this is kind of embarrassing. I'm SonicMTD and welcome to another episode of Always Right Reviews. Unfortunately, my camera died. It had started to go shortly after Anime North, which was rather unfortunate because I only had the camera for roughly about a year. But it's currently being repaired by Sony and hopefully I'll be able to get it back and it won't cost me as much as the camera originally did. Praying. But in the meantime, I've had to sort of borrow my friends' gear and sort of also borrow their house. Right now I'm in a barren, frozen wasteland known as Mississauga. It's not really that bad. But I'm using the gear and I'm live on location for this review, which would be a Wave of the Samurai 3. Just like the previous one that I did, it is a leftover from the show that I'm no longer a part of. But the good news is since it never got to air, I get to use it for you guys today. So I hope you enjoy this future video, and until then, let's get to it. Let's start the show.
Hi, what are you doing in here? Who told you you could be in here?
I got permission from the person who owns the house.
Well, guess what?
What?
The person who owned the house is dead.
Oh, I'm sorry?
Yeah, that's right. You heard me. Now get the out of here. But you got a video to do or something?
That's not foreshadowing for a possible review in the future at all. Either way, let's start the show.
Hey, catch.
Hey kids, it's time for a new feature from Always Right Reviews. So ladies and gentlemen, before we begin this, I've got a bit of a confession. I am a Japanophile. There's just something so fascinating about the culture, history, society, customs, everything, man. Just everything. My passion for Japan was so much so that I even minored in Japanese sociology and performed multiple presentations on feudalism, primarily between the Yayoi and Edo periods. Now, I was already modeled towards Asian culture thanks to my upbringing, but what helped it was a nice little PS2 title that was called Way of the Samurai 2. Basically, it was Samurai the RPG. You start off as a nameless, silent samurai who wanders into a random city and becomes the catalyst for a giant power struggle. What stood out for me was the innovation the second game possessed. Way of the Samurai 2 had 14 different endings to achieve, which at the time seemed ungodly for a video game. The ability of being able to craft your own destiny through your actions and affiliations intoxicated me. Would I join the magistrate and control the populace through fear? Would I join the Auto gang and dye the streets of Amahara red with blood? Or would I join the townspeople and use my skills to protect the helpless and innocent? While it was flawed in a lot of respects, I do cherish the time I spent with Way of the Samurai 2. When I found out the PS3 was going to get a sequel, I fucking ran to EB and said, "Shut up and take my money." So dust off your wabaki when you step into my house. Senpai Sonic is gonna teach you some things as I review Way of the Samurai 3. Konnichiwa, fellow Kohais, and welcome to the Sengoku period of Japan. Do not adjust your screens as we've relocated to the fictitious city of Amana, a land where the currently peaceful populace are unsettled as the ever-present threat of war looms over the horizon. Nobunaga Oda has begun to make his move, and with it comes oppression, poverty, and desperation. Now, before I get ahead of myself, Way of the Samurai 3 was released originally in Japan in 2008 and was imported to Western civilization in 2009. It was developed by Acquire, who are known for the Tenchu series and a little-known gem that I'll be reviewing down the line. Now, back to the review. Just like in the last game, in Way of the Samurai 3, we are a nameless, voiceless samurai who passes out and is rescued by townsfolk. The past one was a result of starvation, and this one is a result of wounds from the battlefield. Whose side were you on? Is there any chance of knowing your backstory? Nope! Go f*** yourself! You awake in Takatane Village so long as you don't accidentally press the first button prompt. More on that later. And bam! Go out there! Seriously, the game just kind of throws you out there with absolutely no clue what your objective is, let alone the game controls. In order to learn combat, you have to go down a path and find an NPC woman being attacked by bandits. It's from there that you're taught the very basics of combat. Use the square button to attack horizontally, the triangle to attack vertically, and the R1 button to block. It's a royal shame that there's a lot you have to learn on your own. I'm not even kidding. There was way much more that this game doesn't explain outside of the manual, so I'm going to basically turn this into an instructional booklet. Okay, so you can kick opponents using the R1 button and square at the same time. This allows you to do a small unblockable strike to your opponent so you can get through people who are overly defensive. Now, if you have someone who's too aggressive, you can put some distance between yourself by throwing the enemy with the R1 and the triangle buttons at the same time. This is a great way to stop the tension causing your weapon to break. Also, did I explain weapon breaks? You see, right above your health bar is your weapon's tension bar. It's got a cooldown time to prevent it from breaking, turning each confrontation into a strategically thought out duel. If you're fighting against some low-level enemies, you have the ability of instantly killing your opponents. If you time your block at the exact moment you're struck, you go through a quick time event minigame where you can chain your attacks until you run out of opponents or lose focus. It's a feature that seems good at first, but then basically can turn a fight into you mashing the block button until you get it. Then there's little things like apologizing to opponents who are going to kick your ass and even sheathing your weapon, which managed to show up in some cutscenes. And yes, there are a lot of cutscenes in the game, and during certain times you can choose to pull out your swords and even prostrate yourself. This game doesn't explain any of this beforehand though. Just about every cutscene in the game can be accidentally bypassed by someone who's got no clue why the prompts for L1 and L2 appeared in the middle of the scene. The cutscenes are also disjointed as all hell. This is primarily due to the fact that Way of the Samurai contains an absurd amount of endings. In total, there are 22 different ways to end the story. From joining factions to going in alone, even just dicking around has been written into the game. The fact that there are so many endings and so little explanation with what you need to do, I had to play with a walkthrough. Seriously, outside of PS2 days, when have I ever needed a walkthrough? This is but a small fraction of the headaches I've endured. We haven't even begun to scratch the surface of what this game doesn't tell you about, but I'm not a nitpicker, I'm a reviewer. Let's talk story. Now, the story is enjoyable for those wanting to sink their teeth into it. There's a nice little power struggle in the kingdom of Amana. The land is governed by the Fujimori clan, whose leader Shuzen wants to completely wipe out all opposition to his rule. The only people in his way are the remains of Sakurai clan, who have all devolved into bandits and thugs with the exemption of a few lieutenants and deserters. Everyone else is caught up in the crossfire, or pulling strings behind the scenes. It's got good groundwork, but Way of the Samurai gets tangled up in its ambition and can't pull itself up from it. Which is a shame, because this could have been a great game. Way of the Samurai 3 has some nice instrumental songs that are used to set the scene and also evoke a certain emotion in combat. If you try to take on a big character, the music will heighten the tension and give you a score that reflects a world-changing confrontation. There's a lot of features that Acquire put into Way of the Samurai 3, but the execution is sloppy. Doing side jobs to raise my rating with a faction is tedious, and oftentimes you can spend way too much time trying to find your objectives only to have the mission botch when something stupid happens to you. Working alongside NPC partners is unrewarding and sometimes takes a lot of bizarre and difficult circumstances to pull off, like praying at every cat you come across. I'm not kidding. After the 5th playthrough, nobody wants to continue this game, let alone learn all the weapon skills and endings. Sure, you can choose to customize your player and do things like dress up the hairiest person in a ballerina costume complete with a swan coming out of your dick. After time though, the novelty will wear on you, and when it does, you're left with a what else can I play vibe. Yet despite what I've said, I don't hate this game. I think the reason why is because I hold the second in higher regard. Nostalgia's a bit of a bitch. If you're curious about the subject matter, you might be able to find enjoyment out of this title. However, Way of the Samurai 3 is a really niche game. I don't recommend it to mainstream audiences at all. Tune in next game review when I try to save the world by stripping people of their clothes. Yep, it's that kind of day.
Hey everybody, thank you so much for catching the 6th episode of Always Right Reviews, where we covered Way of the Samurai 3. Please be sure to like and subscribe this video and leave me a comment in the comments down below. Regardless of what you have to say, I will definitely check it out, especially if it helps me improve my craft. On this side of the webpage, up here, is probably going to be a link to whatever YouTube recommends you should watch. And down here is going to be a collection of every single video associated with Always Right Reviews. If this is your first video, I definitely recommend you go back and check out some of the previous stuff that I've done. But either way, I'm SonicMTD, arigato gozaimasu, and thank you very much for catching these videos. Till next time, later days.
Alright, you've had your fun. Get out of my house. That's it. Get out of my house. What do you think you're doing in here? What do you think you're doing with my camera? Get out of here. This is my...